Nuggets get their revenge in the Alamo City. They beat the San Antonio Spurs at the Frost Bank Center by 11 points, 122-111, the final. Welcome to the Nuggets postgame live, presented by your Front Range Toyota dealers, Katie Winge and Chris Dempsey. Totally different story. Well, a little bit of a similar story to last night at Ball Arena, but a different outcome for the Denver Nuggets. Down the stretch, the defense kicked into gear. What did the Nuggets do different?
Yeah, I mean, they just played with a lot more physicality. I mean, look, it's hard to contain Devin Vassell. Like, he just kind of gets in, and Keldon Johnson very tough on the offensive glass. But Victor Wembanyama combined 1 for 6 in the fourth quarter and in overtime. And so when you're stopping the star player and you're able to really, generally speaking, control the supporting cast, then you give yourself a chance to be able to win this game. And that's just exactly what the Nuggets did. Kudos to Peyton Watson. See, this was a young man who came into this game. He took a little bit of flack last night for what happened with Victor Wembanyama tonight, especially in that fourth quarter down the stretch in OT. The star did nothing, and Peyton Watson was in the middle of all of those defensive plays.
All right, time now to see who's all in, presented by Ball Corporation. Who else? Who else could it be than Nikola Jokic?
Oh, this guy.
46, 9, and 10. Another Sombor double. I'm going to need to check on how many Sombor doubles he has now in his career, because it's an outlandish amount. Again, not as efficient as we're used to seeing him, but second most 40-plus point games in Nuggets history now with 26. Did Nikola Jokic change anything about his approach to this game, Demps?
Not a single thing. Not a single thing. 36 shots last night, 35 tonight. A lot of this is just, again, I mean, you were talking about this a little bit earlier, Katie, and that is how San Antonio is guarding him. Look, there's a lot of single coverage, a lot of switches on ball screens. That's why you saw Chris Paul on him kind of a lot, especially down the stretch. The Spurs wanted to switch some of those ball screens. It just didn't work out for him at all. I mean, he really dominated in the overtime as well, and a lot of that just had to do with, I understand why San Antonio was trying that strategy. It's just that when Chris Paul is now on a 7-footer and all you really ever have to do is hit him in a hand and he can just guide the ball back up to the rim, you got to stop doing that. But they didn't, and he took full advantage. He was awesome.
Nikola Jokic, Jokic to the San Antonio Spurs in overtime in particular. 9 points, 4 of 5 from the field. But getting to that point, a lot of that was Michael Porter Jr. and the way he kept the Denver Nuggets in the game in the second half. It wasn't a Porter quarter, Demps. It was a Porter half.
Yeah, and I said this to you earlier. Listen, I don't remember every single Michael Porter Jr. second half of his career, but I'm going to guess that this is no worse than a top 3 performance in his career in a second half. And without this that he was able to do in the second half, especially shooting from long range, the Nuggets they're not even in the game to be able to do this. And so you got to give him credit. We talked about him pregame in terms of being just a much more advanced offensive player. You saw every single bit of that in that second half, plus the shooting, which has been really, really good for him as of late.
I mean, this right here, Michael Porter Jr. willed the team back by sheer determination. What I loved about Michael Porter Jr.'s second half performance to Demps was it didn't feel like he was really forcing anything. All of his looks were within the flow of Denver's offense. They looked to him a little bit more.
They did. Yep.
And then he just caught fire and kept building on that.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, everything that he got, to your point, was within the structure of the offense, which is easy for me to say. A lot of the curls off of dribble handoffs, a lot of flip stuff to him. You break wide pin down screens to get him free. All the things that they have really done over the course of the season. They did that in that third quarter, and he just rewarded them for it, right? He started making all the shots, and they started leaning into him more, which is kind of honestly, Katie, is something that is a little on the rare side. I mean, we've seen him have really good quarters and then all of a sudden not really get the ball. That was not the case here today. He got hot. They kept feeding him. He rewarded them.
I can't continue without at least giving you a little bit of crap. He's really good at the flip stuff. We should have you do a breakdown on the flip stuff.
We should.
The flip stuff is where Michael Porter Jr. really thrives.
The flip stuff.
The flip stuff. Peyton Watson and his defense, you mentioned it as we had to break here on Nuggets postgame live. Peyton Watson, his defense on Victor Wembanyama, and late in the second half, really good. Swatson out in full effect. We'll talk more about him when we come back. About the second half defense in particular for the Denver Nuggets, but let's focus in on the fourth quarter and overtime, because that's, Dempsey, when things got really good. The Nuggets held the Spurs to just 19 total points, fourth quarter and overtime combined. How'd they do it?
Yeah, I mean, they 6 of 24 in the fourth quarter to get them to overtime, and then obviously just hold those guys to 3 points in the fourth. And you see, I mean, they just got a lot more disruptive. They just a lot more energy. Multiple efforts were there. They weren't just allowing the Spurs ball handlers to get one screen and get right downhill into their paint. I mean, those had been the things that the Spurs really were doing regularly in the last couple of games, and that just shut off in the fourth quarter. And that's just kudos to the Nuggets defense. They got really desperate on that end, and they played like it. And when they did, they were able to really start stifling some of the actions that had given them trouble for the most part in these last two games.
All right, let's go back to San Antonio now, hear from head coach Michael Malone in tonight's Advent Health coach's comments.
Well, Coach, down by 11 to start the fourth, and your defense just muscled its way to that victory. Do you agree?
Yeah, I thought our defense the whole night was really good. Obviously, the rebounding has to be improved. We had some great defensive possessions where we didn't clean it up with a defensive rebound, so that's the one thing that we have to improve upon. But I have to give a lot of credit to that group that started the fourth quarter. You know, DeAndre, Jamal, Peyton, I think Julian, and maybe Michael Porter, because they started 12-4, got us back into the game, to your point, got us back within striking distance, and then we went to Russ and Nikola around the 7-minute mark, and couldn't be more proud of a group. Obviously, tough loss at home last night. You get into the hotel around 3:34, and another win on the second night of a back-to-back. Tough-minded, resilient, mentally tough, and it's good to get last night's loss back and to go home and have a chance to get a rest day tomorrow before we get back at practice to prepare for the upcoming homestand.
What does it say about Michael? 24 of his 28 in the second half, and you mentioned that critical push there. He was in the game, and he made most of the buckets for you.
Yeah, I mean, Michael played 46 minutes tonight. I don't think I took him out in the second half. If I did, it was for a cup of coffee. He got going. I think we were 1 for 15 from 3 at halftime. And the quality of looks that we were getting, Vic, were great. I mean, Julian was getting good looks. Michael was getting good looks. They didn't go down. So you tell your shooters to stay with it when you're generating such quality looks. And Michael did to score 24 of his 28 in the second half. Huge performance by him. Obviously, Nikola, 46, 9, and 10. 2 block shots, 2 steals. He's doing a little bit of everything. Russell, 9 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists. And Jamal, I thought Jamal had some really good moments as well. 5 steals and 6 rebounds, and he was really active defensively as well. So good team win tonight.
Coach, we were talking about the broadcast how there was a lot of talk on social after last night's game about Wembanyama outplaying Jokic, and maybe there's a changing of the guard or something like that. And I wonder, how much do you think Jokic pay any attention to that? Did you feel like he was more determined tonight? He certainly got it going in the second half, where he just said, "I'm going to take this game over and get out of my way."
Yeah, I'll be honest. I think Nikola's like me. I don't think he pays any attention to social media, what's being said, good, bad, indifferent. But I do know that Nikola has a ton of respect for Victor Wembanyama, and we all do. He's a great young talent. And he's getting better right in front of our eyes. And he's going to be a force to be reckoned with for many, many years. And that has nothing to do with social media. That's just greatness respecting greatness between two really good players. And I think, when I was talking with Nikola after the game, he was frustrated that he missed so many shots that he normally makes. And he wanted to come out tonight and be a lot more efficient. So to go 19 of 35, I would say is pretty efficient, Chris. And to get 9 assists, 10 rebounds, and as I mentioned, 2 blocks and 2 steals. The guy is just, filling up the stat sheet every single night. So, but all he cares about is winning. That's the most important stat for Nikola.
Seeing that one of the changes, you started putting Peyton Watson on Wemby a whole lot in that fourth quarter and overtime. What would you say about the job he did on Wemby?
Oh, he was our defensive player of the game. I thought he embraced that challenge. And, Chris asked the question, hey, it's hard to guard a guy. And I said, try harder. And, and I thought Peyton did that. Peyton, guarding a great player is not easy. But you have to embrace that challenge. You have to be up for that challenge, mentally and physically. And I thought Peyton did an outstanding job for us on both ends, to be honest. And that was great to see. And I thought a really key point, third quarter, fourth quarter, overtime, we only had 3 turnovers. And when we don't turn the ball over, we don't fuel other teams' break. And that's such an important factor for us. Take care of the ball, make teams play in the half court. And when you do that, I really believe that a half-court defense has a chance to be exceptional. And I thought we had some really good possessions down the stretch of a close game and into overtime, which we were able to win by 11, which you don't see 14-3 in overtime very often.
How bad did you need that? I mean, back-to-back games are tough enough, but how bad did you need that mentally to win tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime you have a game like we had last night where you're up 5 at home in front of a great crowd with 2:30 to go, and we are so used to just put in the books. Red Auerbach would have lit up a cigar, and it didn't happen. And you have to give them credit, and we have to own up our shortcomings. Don't be afraid to look in that mirror and say, well, what could I have done better as a head coach? What could we have done better as a team? And I thought we had a better showing tonight. So, yes, we were 8-4 in our last 12 going into tonight. We've been playing better. I think our guys understand this is a time of year, especially with the month that we're facing and the quality of opponents that we have coming up, that we have to be a lot more disciplined, connected, urgent, desperate, whatever you want to call it, to start stringing wins and playing at a high level. And hopefully this is another game that can continue to propel us towards that.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, everybody.
We're going to take a break here on Nuggets Post Game Live. Peyton Watson doing some really good things on both ends, particularly down the stretch for the Denver Nuggets. We'll hear from him in the locker room next.